Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 3 former NFL players say they collectively lost more than $1 million after investing in what appeared to be profitable, fully managed Shopify stores. The websites displayed hundreds of orders. The sales dashboards appeared active. Investors were promised the return of their original money after 6 months, plus 80% of the store's profits. But according to a new Barron's investigation, some of those apparent sales may never have involved real customers, real shipments, or even real revenue. And the Shopify stores may have only been the beginning, because after investors were shown what looked like successful online businesses, they were allegedly offered an even larger opportunity involving a supposed $215 million acquisition by a Dubai investment firm. This is fraud in order. And today, we are examining how professional athletes were allegedly sold businesses that looked profitable on a screen, but may have produced almost no actual income. According to Barron's, the operation centered on Mohamed Coulibaly, a 24-year-old Philadelphia entrepreneur associated with an e-commerce venture called Motion Ventures and a clothing brand called Motion Apparels. Coulibaly had cultivated an image built around entrepreneurship, professional sports, luxury, and powerful connections. His social media presence reportedly included photographs and interactions with professional athletes, sports executives, musicians, private aircraft, and luxury events. Previous profiles had described him as a young athlete and successful businessman who had generated millions through sneakers and fashion. That image mattered because in investment fraud, people are rarely sold numbers alone. They're sold credibility, they're sold access, and they're sold the belief that respected people have already verified the opportunity. Barron's reports that Coulibaly circulated a pitch deck naming roughly 24 current and former professional athletes and other public figures as clients. It is unclear whether everyone named in that presentation knew they were included. 3 former NFL players who spoke with Barron's said they felt reassured by Coulibaly's relationships with other athletes and by the reported involvement of Steve Keim, the former general manager of the Arizona Cardinals. One player reportedly asked the question many investors ask before committing money. Why would someone with that level of experience become involved if the business were not legitimate? The initial investment opportunity sounded straightforward. For at least $50,000, athletes could supposedly become owners of ready-made e-commerce stores. Motion Ventures would reportedly handle the complicated work, finding products, operating the websites, running advertisements, managing inventory, and processing orders. The contracts promised that investors would receive their original principal after 6 months, along with 80% of any profit generated by their stores. After investing, the athletes received login credentials to their Shopify dashboards, and when they opened those dashboards, the businesses appeared to be working. There were visitors, there were products, there were orders. One store, called Daily Prod Trend, appeared to record a $5,000 order from Luxembourg for 100 desktop humidifiers and 120 USB-powered cup warmers. Other apparent sales involved motorized water guns, portable fans, and cell phone accessories. But Barron says the numbers did not make sense. The Daily Prod Trend dashboard reportedly showed only about 90 visitors between March 2025 and February 2026. During that same period, more than 360 orders appeared in the system. That would mean the store recorded approximately 4 orders for every single visitor, an extraordinary conversion rate that would be practically impossible for a normal online store. Contracts claimed the websites would be promoted using Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, influencer campaigns, and other advertising. But Barron's reports that the analytics contained no meaningful evidence that visitors were arriving through those channels. Then investigators examined how the orders may have appeared inside Shopify. Shopify allows merchants to manually enter transactions into their dashboards. The feature has legitimate uses. A business might record an order placed over the phone, at a physical event, or through another offline channel. But manual orders can also create the appearance of sales without an online customer ever visiting the store. Barron's reviewed the Daily Prod Trend dashboard and reportedly confirmed that an order could appear without triggering any actual shipment. Cybersecurity investigator Zach Edwards examined the information for Barron's and said the store displayed numerous signs of a scam. Shopify declined to comment on the article. Another test came from the wife of an athlete who invested in a separate store called Lux Lane. She reportedly placed an actual order for 2 cake molds. 2 months passed, and nothing arrived. After the investor complained directly to Coulibaly, 1 cake mold eventually appeared at the door. That single purchase raised a critical question. Were the stores operating as genuine e-commerce businesses, or were products only shipped when someone close to an investor tested whether the website worked? According to the athletes, the apparent success of the online stores prepared them for a much larger pitch. Coulibaly allegedly told investors that Middle East Venture Partners, a legitimate Dubai-based venture capital company, had agreed to acquire Motion Ventures for $215 million once the operation expanded to 175 online stores. Investors could supposedly fund additional groups of websites and receive a share of the acquisition proceeds. To support the deal, one athlete was shown a contract that appeared to name a JPMorgan Chase wealth advisor as the escrow agent. It even contained what appeared to be a signature, but JPMorgan Chase told Barron's that the escrow contract did not originate from the bank. Middle East venture partners did not respond to Barron's request for comment. One Lux Lane investor says he joined a video call with Coulibaly and Steve Keem and was persuaded to contribute $200,000 toward the supposed Dubai transaction. Two other former athletes said Keem also appeared during separate presentations concerning the Shopify opportunity. Keem initially told Barron's he wanted Coulibaly's permission before commenting, and later did not provide answers to follow-up questions. Coulibaly told Barron's that Keem served as chief operating officer of Motion Ventures and assisted with vendors, factories, and prospective clients. As the expected payments approached, the terms allegedly kept changing. Two investors say they were eventually persuaded to provide nearly $300,000 more. In exchange, they were told their return could rise to approximately $4 million, distributed through multiple payments. But the promised disbursements reportedly did not arrive. The explanations then began. In one message reviewed by Barron's, Coulibaly allegedly blamed banking problems, saying Chase had objected to the amount of money being moved and that Wells Fargo was also creating difficulties. Chase told Barron's it did not maintain accounts for Coulibaly or his businesses, while noting that privacy rules limited what else it could disclose. Wells Fargo declined to comment. Later, one investor says another payment delay was blamed on conflict involving Iran and its Middle Eastern neighbors. Coulibaly denied that he was intentionally withholding money. He told Barron's that his investors had not received their expected returns because he had not received the anticipated funds from Middle East venture partners. He said he was also trying to determine what was happening with the Dubai firm. No criminal charge against Coulibaly was reported in the Barron's article. The SEC, the FBI, and the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities declined to comment on whether they were investigating. But two players submitted allegations to those agencies through a report prepared by Barry Minkow, and that introduces one of the strangest elements in the entire story. Minkow is not a conventional investigator. As a teenager, he founded Ziz's Best, a carpet cleaning company that became the centerpiece of a massive fraud. The company appeared successful, but much of its business was fabricated. Minkow was eventually convicted and imprisoned. Years later, he reinvented himself as a pastor and fraud investigator, before being convicted again in separate securities and church-related fraud cases. The Justice Department says Minkow previously admitted defrauding his own congregation of more than $3 million, and he was also ordered to pay hundreds of millions of dollars following a securities fraud case. Now that convicted fraudster is helping athletes pursue allegations of another potential fraud. According to the report viewed by Barron's, Minkow will receive a share of recovered funds remaining after the athlete's losses are repaid. It is an extraordinary circle. An alleged scheme built using fake-looking business activity is now being investigated by a man who became notorious for creating fake business activity himself. But regardless of who uncovered it, the evidence described by Barron's raises serious questions. Why did the stores appear to have hundreds of orders but almost no visitors? Why did a real test purchase take months to arrive? Why did a supposed $215 million acquisition agreement contain bank documentation that JPMorgan Chase says it did not create? And why were investors repeatedly asked to contribute more money whenever their expected payouts approached? Those questions do not prove a crime, but they describe a familiar pattern. First, establish trust using celebrities, executives, and apparent success. Second, show investors profits that exist inside a controlled dashboard. Third, use those apparent profits to sell a larger investment. And finally, when payment becomes due, offer a new explanation and possibly a new opportunity that requires even more money. Three former NFL players say they lost more than $1 million. The full number of potential investors remains unknown, and the names of roughly 24 athletes and public figures allegedly appeared in the company's pitch materials. For professional athletes, the danger is especially serious. A career can produce millions of dollars, but may last only a few years. That creates pressure to transform short-term earnings into permanent wealth. And when an investment opportunity arrives through trusted teammates, respected executives, or people inside the sports world, normal skepticism can disappear. The alleged Shopify scheme did not need an elaborate fake bank. It only needed websites, dashboards, recognizable names, and numbers on a screen. Because when investors believe they are already watching their money grow, convincing them to invest, again, becomes much easier. Follow fraud in order for the investigations hiding behind luxury lifestyles, famous connections, and businesses that appear profitable until somebody tries to withdraw the money.